Folks, we are live. Welcome to the Talking Crit live stream. I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. With me, as usual, on Wednesday nights is my once a week work spouse, Bad Mike Battalato.
Hello,
And,
folks.
this is not going to be one of the normal shows, sadly. But we are here to celebrate a life. So,
Yeah, we're gonna. This show is dedicated to Jennell Jaquays, who passed away early this morning. Um, got news from Becky that she had several heart. She's been in renal failure for a while. Had several heart attacks this morning, and she passed. She was not in good health. She developed Guillain-Barré syndrome late last year. For those who don't know anything about it, it's a really horrific nerve disease. My mother in law had it before she passed. Um, it pretty much shuts down your body. And so she developed it. And it can come out of nowhere. It can be activated by any number of things. You just have it. You just have the gene in there. My wife has it, which is why she has never got a COVID shot because there is a slight possibility it could activate the gene. So she's petrified. She's ended up like her mother. Her mother, what it does is it shuts down your body. Your body kind of reboots itself, but you have to learn how to walk again. Sometimes talk. Sometimes you can't. When you get it, you can't swallow. You can't eat. You lose motor functions. You lose your hands and legs are paralyzed. Um, my mother-in-law was able in about a month to start walking again, and she got to where she could, with a respirator, because she lost her lungs were so damaged by the Guillain-Barré syndrome, she had to use an oxygen machine most time. Um, this all happened to Jennell, and it happened within a week, and so she
yep.
was paralyzed. She had to have a air tube put in her trachea, um, a food tube in her stomach, and could only communicate with Becky by blinking. Now as time went on, she got some control back, but she did not improve like the doctors thought she should. And my because my like I said, my mother in law was up and around about 5 weeks. She was well walking. Jennell never regained control of her feet or her hands. She never got off the respirator. She was able to talk to Becky, sometimes, and sadly, Becky, her wife Becky, had to watch all this and had to deal with this every day. It was at the hospital every single day dealing with this, and she just never got better. It just really sucked. The doctors got worried after a while. I said, she should be getting better. This isn't right. This isn't working. She got a couple of infections, and she went downhill, and it's just really sad. And sure, her kidneys started failing. It just cascaded, and she's in a. I hate to say she's in a better place. It's so trite and cliche, but
Yeah.
She's not suffering anymore. You know, because imagine how horrific that is, Eric. If you're stuck in bed, you can't move. And Becky rigged up a little thing where she could watch shows on her iPad, but can't really talk. You can't breathe on your own. You can't eat.
Right.
It's awful. It's horrible. It's just terrible. So she's not suffering, which I'm glad. I We're going to talk a lot about which her influence on the industry is huge. It's
Yeah.
fucking huge, and we're going to talk about. You're not going to remember all the shit she's done until we start talking about all the shit she's done, because she was in every aspect of gaming, both RPGs and video and art, since 1976, 75, 76, and all the way up until her passing. So we're going to talk a lot about that, and all the influence, the influence she had on the industry even today. Um, and like I said, not just her writing, but her artwork and just everything. And so um, I don't know. Do you want to start out with just start talking about her career, or do you want to do why personally I'm so? I mean, I'll just do the personal stuff first. So I met. So when Doug and I started North Texas in 2009, we were looking for. We were cheap, okay, Eric. We were looking for guests
No.
we were looking for guests that live close by. So we're like, well, who lives close by? So we had Dennis Sister drive up from Austin. Jason Braun drove up from San Antonio. Then Doug finally said, "Screw it, we're just gonna have Frank Menser, Tim Kask, and Rob Kuntz come." Even though we couldn't justify it with only like 60 people coming to the con, we did anyway. But Jennell lived close by. Like, oh, Jennell Jaquays lives close by. We later found out that Sandy Peterson lived close by, which is crazy. Because, like, well, Sandy Peterson? Call through the Sandy Peterson. Yeah. Lived in Rockwall, Texas, for all those years we didn't know. But so did Jennell. And I wanted to throw another thing out real quick. I'm not going to dead name Jennell during this show at all. So, yes, there was a name change there, but we're just gonna call her Jennell. All right, if that's okay with everybody. You know what we're talking about. You know what's up. So, but yeah, so Jennell came, and it was cool to see her, and I mean, Doug didn't just cold call her. Doug had bought some gaming stuff, including artwork from her. I think the year before. So, he kind of knew her. He knew her phone number and was able to call her and say, "Hey, we're doing this convention. Can you come over?" And so Jennell came over, and it was great. And so we got Jennell was a personal hero of mine, just because when I was just starting out in D&D, I got a copy of Book of Treasure Maps, and I thought Book of Treasure Maps was awesome. And later on, a few years later, I got a copy of Dark Tower, and Caverns of Thracia just blew me away, because they were not like anything else being published at the time they were published. And to this, even to this day, they're not like a lot of stuff you see. So, Jennell came for a few years, and then Jason Braun did our first two logos, and Jennell said, "Hey, if you guys don't care, I'd love to do your logo for the con, because we had a theme. It was always a dragon holding a shield." And she'd like, I'd like to give that a shot. And we're like, okay. And this was done gratis. No, we did not pay Jennell. Jennell actually gave us the logo and said, "Here, these are yours now." I mean, it was very, very nice of a professional in the industry to do something like that. Just to say, "Hey, you have this little con. It's really cool. I'm going to let you use your logo." So she did our logos from years 3 through 10. And we did do a different color every year, and sometimes would surprise us by the colors, because she did some really non-traditional covers. She did the usual red, blue, black, green, but then white. But then she did a gem dragon. So I think that's what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing the gem dragon. Gem dragon. She did a gold dragon. So she would, she kind of went outside the box a little bit, and then year 10 was our 10th anniversary. She did her last dragon, which was a multicolored dragon, which we don't have that one I believe is the blue dragon, if I remember correctly. That's the blue. But yeah, so some of the early dragons, by the way, not a lot of people see, because those were the days we were only having like 100 people come to the con, and only 30 people would buy shirts. So some of the earlier ones from 2011, 12, 13, nobody's really ever seen very much of. I didn't have any examples of the really early ones, unfortunately. I had years 6, 7, 8, 9, I believe, were the ones I had.
And by the way, that's her art
there's some
behind us. The wallpaper behind us is some of her art, just so
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, that just blew me away, because this is great stuff here from a professional illustrator in the gaming industry. TSR. They used to work for TSR, and I mean, it's amazing to have something like this. And so that was really cool, really nice of her, and would come every year. After she transitioned, she came. She very famously wrote Doug and I a letter saying that I understand that you might not be comfortable with this, but I was wondering if I could still come to the con. We're like, yeah. we never had a discussion in either way. We're like, of course, you're welcome. You're always welcome. There's no question. You're a special guest no matter what. And so just she became a personal friend. We talked a lot, quite a bit. Just a really just a super nice person. If you were asked anything about the history of the game, or her work with Coleco or anything. She was just, yeah, okay, and would talk to you for however long you talk. One of my coolest memories.
Is that my sound or I can't hear crap? Let me see. Michael, can
Yeah,
you?
so
There we go.
that cool memories from that con was they.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Mike,
can hear you. I just
we
lost.
lost your audio for a bit. I thought it was me. I thought I pressed a
That's
weird
all right.
button.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so no, she was, that 4 hour conversation was amazing between Dennis and Jennell. Um, I it's really hard for me to talk about this, a lot of this. Anyway, eventually, Jennell met Rebecca Heineman, who is a huge figure in the video game industry. They moved to the West Coast. She did not come to a few of the North Texas gatherings, but then when they moved back to Texas. Cost of living is cheaper here, guys. They moved back here, moved in Jennell's old house in the same area she used to live in, and they started coming again, started attending again, which was awesome. And so we got to see her and Becky at the con. They were special guests, and then um, 2 years ago, in 2022, she was put in the initial North Texas Hall of Honor, which is for people who have gone above and beyond to promote the con and help the con during the years. She was part of the initial class with obviously Doug Ray, Tim Kask, Dennis Sestair, and she was just that much. She was that important to the con that we had to put her in. Um, and she was very. She loved the con. She loved North Texas. Loved going to it. Loved gaming at it. Loved the fact that she could run whatever she wanted there. She loved meeting her fans. I mean, she just was really involved in the con. She donated over the years so much stuff to the con. One of the things she donated was this is something that Zach and Glazer and I worked on, which was we took her Night of the Walking Wet, which is one of their dungeons in Dungeoneer magazine. And for those of you who've never seen the original, it's impossible to read because the font is so bad.
Oh,
And so we
jeez.
so we published the first one, and then Zach and I we did it. We did a revisited version that you can read and actually game with. And so she gave us the permission to do that. Plus, did a brand new cover for it. Plus, did a 7-page origin of her life, which we'll talk about a little later because there's some really interesting tidbits in there. So I was just really, I just that was a kind of a cool project to work on. I got to do something for Jennell, and she supplied a bunch of new material, and it was just really cool, to do that. By the way, we had to do it in a week because for some reason Zach and I had blown it off until May, and we had to be done before the North Texas. And so Jennell whipped up a piece of artwork and wrote her thing, and she had written her thing in February, and then we just whipped it out like in a week. So, which by the way, to this day, I looked through it. There's maybe like 2 or 3 tiny little spelling errors. I mean, we did. Zach and I did a pretty good job under pressure. So, um, and if you go to the con, we still have some of these available. These are still available, and it's just a really cool little. It's an original OD&D dungeon that she wrote for Dungeoneer magazine, so it's very cool. Yeah, would come every year. She had a table there. Would talk to her fans. Had many fans. So many people there.
Oh, she was
I
always
don't think
holding
she.
court,
Yeah,
and it wasn't like court being held at by other personalities at other cons, where there's just like circle of protection around. No, she would put herself in a very public place so people could feel comfortable coming up and saying, "Hello, I just wanted this. Could you sign this?" Always approachable, always kind,
she
always
was.
sweet.
I've been seeing so many stories online about how people who would just write her out of the blue and say, "Hey, could you tell me about this or that?" And she would just give them all. I mean, she was never. She would always give her time and always and was just a great font of knowledge and history of the time. And she never blew anybody off and said, "Nah, I don't have time for that." And she would always give people her over and above her time. and just an amazing person. And she was always giving stuff to Gary and I for the con, just donating stuff out. The last con we went to, she brought a box of stuff. It was just a whole bunch of old D&D stuff of hers, and said, "I just want to give this to the con for auctions and stuff." And I just was looking at this today. I got everything I have signed by her pretty much. I missed a few items, but she did sign my Dragon Mountain
Wow.
box, which was that's one of the coolest pieces of artwork she ever did. That Dragon Mountain cover, and that's one thing I did not have signed by her was the Dragon Mountain box set. And I'm very very glad I got that signed by her. A couple years ago, she had an open case or unopened few pieces or a few copies of her central casting books, and she signed and she donated those and signed them for us. I mean, she's just an amazing person, and so I consider her a personal friend, and we'll talk about her influence on the industry too, because I mean, it wasn't just about North Texas and about that. I mean, she had her fingers in so many pies, and was such an amazing creative. I hate to throw the word genius, but she really did change the way we look at RPGs by what she did. And was still producing stuff even now. She was working on a massive redo of her central casting.
Yep.
She's been wanting for years and years to redo her central casting books, and she is almost finished. And I heard today, or Eric just told me today, which I was very pleased to hear, that those are basically finished, and that somebody who's working on it with her will get those published, which is awesome. That
Yeah.
is such great news because she worked on that for the last 4 to 5 years. She was really, all during COVID, she was working on that, and so that is going to be an amazing, amazing book to finally have in your hands. Is the central casting redo?
And actually, Bob, that's interesting that you bring up that she was the first to Jaquays the dungeons. Um, and it is true, and that actually became a huge thing last year in 2023 about Jennell doesn't like that term, and then Mike and I were discussing it right before the show, and Mike had a little clarity on her use of the term. So, Mike, if you
Yeah,
will,
she objected to Jaquaying the dungeon because her name's Jaquays, and she was proud of her last name, and so she preferred Jaquaysing the dungeon, which was to her was the correct pronunciation. So she didn't mind the term; she just wanted it done correctly.
right.
She
So this,
wanted the Jaquaysing to be used instead of Jaquaying. And I think people have started to come around to that, and they use that. But that basically was just a term that meant that Jaquays in the dungeon meant doing, non-linear, non
linear.
linear dungeons, and that's what she did, and that's what she was famous for, was doing on most famous dungeons were non-linear, which was something that just pull out your old TSR whatever dungeons, they're all point A, you're gonna get here, and you go through a dungeon and you get there, and that's how everything was there. Every encounter pretty much had to be run. Back then they didn't do hex crawls, they didn't really do sandboxes. Jennell's dungeons were not like that. You could skip whole sections, you could skip under, over, around. Everything did not exist in a vacuum. It was, you could go from here to there to here to there, and miss entire parts of the dungeon. But it didn't matter because the dungeon wasn't written to where you had to visit every single. A lot of those old TSR dungeons, Eric, like you have to get a key from room 12
Oh
to get in
God,
room
yes.
15. And if you miss the key in room 12, you got to go back and get it, or you have to get the magic, spell book from here and read the spell off there. She didn't do that. No, you wandered around the dungeon. You did like a dungeon crawler would. You wandered around the dungeon and found things, and um, yeah, just really just an amazingly creative person, and just a very nice person. Like I said, I don't think anybody says any things about her, and always a very happy person. She was always very pleasant and happy, which is not, Eric and I can tell you, not the case with a lot of the old school guys necessarily. A lot of them aren't happy, but she was very happy with where she was and her position in the community. And she kind of took on the old. She was kind of like one of the old guard, but she was very approachable.
Yep.
It's funny. She was only 67 years old, and I think at the time I was. she started very young, and I'm 60, so she's not that much older than me. But I kept thinking she's been around in the industry so long. I mean, when she started. Her start was, a lot like ours. She was a big nerd. She was born in the '50s. Big nerd, comic books, TV, sci-fi TV show, whatever, whatever nerds were into in the '60s and '70s. She was into, and she started playing D&D in college, and then got with this group, and they decided to create their own. There was not very much material back then. There was really nothing back then. They created their own magazine or the fanzine called the Dungeoneer, and they would all publish stuff in there. And she was only 19 when she did that. So this is about 1975 or so, when I was 12. So I mean, wasn't aware of any of this. But she created the Dungeoneer magazine, ran for 6 issues, did a bunch of adventures in there. Night of the Walking Wet, Feltrak's Tomb. I mean, just some really cool stuff, and started developing kind of a name. And by the way, she very famously, when she did the Engineers, she wrote Tim Kask and said, "Look, I'm going to do this magazine about D&D. It's going to be called Dungeoneer. Am I ruining copyright, or am I going to get in trouble?" And Tim was like, "No, we're not using the words Dungeoneer or the name Dungeoneer, so you're welcome to do it." And so, okay. And you can imagine, what would Watsy do now, Eric?
Oh my God.
Tim Cass like, "Yeah, you're going to write about our game we just came out with? Hell yeah!" And he apparently even told Jennell, like, "Yeah, matter of fact, would you mention us in your Dungeoneer because we're just starting out. We'll take any publicity we can get." And so yeah, it was back then it was a different era, Eric. It was a different era back then when people actually tried to help each other, and
Well,
they're
now
all
with time out, that era still exists for the most part in the OSR. I've never seen
in the
any
OSR
other
definitely.
community where creatives are so willing to give freely of their time to others to make sure that other people can be a success. So I think that's a carryover.
Yeah, so the people are talking about this. I asked her personally, and she said she was fine with Jaquaysing the dungeon, not Jaquay the dungeon. So, and I specifically asked her that just to let you guys know. So don't argue about it. It
That
was she was fine. She just didn't want her name done properly. She just didn't like her name not being used properly. But she was fine with Jaquaysing the dungeon. So anyway, yeah, she's 19. She wrote, and by the end of the run of the magazine, and a lot of this, by the way, is in. If you buy copy of Now the Walking Wet Revisited, she has 7 pages where she talks about all this. This is all about creating the Dungeoneer magazine, what they did. So, she went off and did her thing, and basically, by the time she's getting an art degree in college, and didn't have time to do Dungeoneer magazine anymore. So she sold the rights to Chuck Ansell, who I think then sold him to Judges Guild, but she ended up working for Judges Guild. What happened? Because she
right.
was. So picture this: she's in her. This is before the age of 25. She publishes Dark Tower, Caverns of Thracia, Book of Treasure Maps, and the RuneQuest Griffin Mountain.
Oh, I didn't realize Griffin Mountain was her. Holy crap!
Griffin Mountain, her and Rudy Kraft did Griffin Mountain also. The original Griffin Mountain.
Well, was it
Um,
not Griffin Island for
no,
RuneQuest
no,
3 that
no. They
sucked?
did the original Griffin Mountain. So, but because she was a huge RuneQuest fan also, big RuneQuest fan. So yeah, this is before the age of 25. At that point you could just hang it up and say, "Look here's what I've done. Look on
You
my work, see mighty in despair." Because I mean, come on, that's a few instant classics in there right there. Dark Tower definitely, Book of Treasure Maps, Caverns of Thracia. They're all amazingly creative, kick-ass stuff. Um, I mean, you could say that stuff's as good as or better than anything TSR was publishing at the time. I think absolutely that's true. At least as good as, if not better. Um, and then, but the industry was not paying a lot of money back then, and she had a degree, and so she went on for the next decade or so to work with the video games industry. She worked with Coleco, ID Games, she did work on Quake. Coleco she did for a ton of titles, and I'm not a huge Coleco fan, so I couldn't tell you the exact titles. I've seen lists online. If you look online, it has what she worked on with Coleco. but just hugely creative in that realm. And then she drifted back into gaming, started doing a lot of artwork for TSR. And Eric has some of those pictures there. That I mean, she just
I
did tons, and some of it
I'm
you don't
on
even know is
call.
hers. Some of it you don't even know that it's her stuff, and you see it and you're like, oh, that was Jennell. But yes, it was. I mean, she, besides the dungeon or so Dragon Mountain covers, she did a lot of Dragon magazine covers. This one right here, that of course that's Dragon Mountain, of course. Uh, that is a cover for Dragon magazine. She did Spelljammer cover, very cool looking. Just really cool art stuff. That is the
This is a
okay. That's
small
that's
piece.
my fault. That's my fault. That's the cover of the Karamiko's Land of Mystery or Land of Adventure
Ah, I should
box
have
set.
recognized it. I loved that
Yeah,
book. Okay.
yeah. I don't know why that's so small. I copy. That's a cover for Dungeon magazine. She, as you can tell, she loved dragons. She was a huge dragon. Huge dragon illustrator. Did all kinds of great dragon stuff. This is all pretty much in the '90s. That was her real '90s was when she did a lot of the really good artwork for TSR. Um, but yeah, she did, and she did a bunch. Like I said, sometimes you look at a cover and you're like, "Who did that?" And, oh my gosh, that was Jaquays. I didn't realize that. But she also wrote. She wrote some stuff. She wrote for the Dragon Quest game, and she did a few. And what's interesting is the adventures she wrote for Dragon Quest. She later rolled. It became FR5: The Savage Frontier because she wrote FR5: The Savage Frontier, which is a Forgotten Realms supplement. But
Right.
a lot of the characters and a lot of the situations and places from her Dragon Quest module are in FR5, which is very cool.
Really?
Yep, it's kind of a little Easter egg, little Easter eggs in there. A lot of the same characters, and so she did. I think it's M5 Talons of. Oh gosh, what is that module called? The Talons module. I don't remember. She did that one. Oh, Talons of Night. M5 Talons of Night. I'm cheating now. She did DMGR1 Campaign Sourcebook and Catacomb Guide, which is a very good little guide. Um, she rewrote the Egg of the Phoenix modules that Frank Menster published and made them all one book, I-12, Egg of the Phoenix. The funny thing is, she won an industry award for the WG7 Castle Greyhawk, which a lot of us consider the worst thing that TSR ever put out, which is the Joke Dungeon. If you remember,
Oh God.
yeah, yeah. Most people did not
Gummy.
like that very
Watch
much.
out for the gummy bears.
Yeah. But yeah, so she worked, like I said, she did RuneQuest, she did D&D. Then she had her own series called Central Casting. And what Central Casting was is this big giant book. It gave you the most elaborate, detailed background for your character ever imaginable. Like a book that thick where you kept rolling percentage dice for every single thing about your character. She did one for Heroes of Tomorrow, which is sci-fi, one for Heroes Now, which is modern, one for Heroes of Legend, which was fantasy. It did some city books, which were with different like pictures of different cities you could just pop into your campaign. That was most. I think that was in the late '80s, early '90s. Those were really good too. Um, she went to and she quit TSR before WotC took over, and she went back to working in the video game industry quite a bit, and just kind of after I think she was let go from ID Games in like 2008 or 2009, right before North Texas. And I don't think she really wasn't worried about too much of a job after that. At some point, she sold a gigantic chunk of her collection to a huge collector for a gigantic chunk of money, which included most of her early artwork and most of her manuscripts, etc., etc. And I think she just kind of retired on that money basically. And she did projects she liked. She worked with she formed a company called Dragon Girl Studios. Did a line of miniatures. She was really interested in her. She did a module called Duck Tower, which is kind of a parody of her other module, Dark Tower, because famously RuneQuest has ducks as humanoid characters you can play, and that always fascinated her. She loved ducks, and so she did some duck oriented adventures. I don't know if I'm forgetting here. Just amazing breadth of a career there. I mean, just all the stuff she worked on and did, and she was working on some stuff. She did she did some 5e stuff towards the end, but she had this massive project. She wanted to redo central casting, and not just one of the books. She wanted to redo all three of the books and put it in
Oh,
one giant book.
you're muted, Mike. Muted. Muted. Can't hear you. Maybe it's. I'm assuming it's not me. There we go.
Yeah, I think I lost. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got an echo now.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Now you hear me
Um,
too, Mike.
I can hear you.
I can hear me too through you.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear me. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why it keeps dropping out like that. That's
I don't
weird.
know.
But anyway, I think I need new headphones, Eric.
Is that a request, Mike?
That might be
Maybe,
a
maybe
wink,
you
wink,
need
hint, hint, nudge, judge.
maybe you need like wireless headset.
Well, this is really wireless. It's just that sometimes when I have the wire out, I don't think it stores power big anymore. We'll try it for wireless for a while and see what
Oh,
happens.
okay.
Um, but yeah, so and this I understand this is going to come out, which is very cool. This is fitting a fitting thing for her legacy is to have this come out. I think that's so cool. Um,
Well, Darcy Perry, our favorite Kiwi, is was still is a collaborator on it, and is going to be, I guess, working with I guess
with Rebecca, probably.
Rebecca, yeah, to make sure this comes out and does Jennell proud, what she wanted.
So a couple of extra things here. Rebecca is has a GoFundMe because the medical bills were over 100K for just her 2 or 3 month stay in a hospital. All the stuff she had to have done to her. So massive medical bills. If you can spare even $20 for the for the GoFundMe, that would be great. But yeah, they're collecting on that because that's just a massive amount of money to have to spend
Yeah,
on medical bills. And so if you could help with that, that'd be awesome.
I just put a link
Um,
up in the chat.
oh, great, good deal. And yeah, and if you know or if you have any connection to Rebecca, go ahead and send her just to, we're thinking about you. She's really doing very badly right now, which you can imagine. She's very depressed and very upset at what's going on here. But I mean, it's really sad, but it's also a celebration of what she did because she was just like I said, the stories are coming out about what an amazing human she was, and people are just saying how much she helped him and what she's done for him. And like I said, not really ever a bad story about her. And but looking at what she did, um, she is a major. And Eric and I are obviously huge backers of the OSR. She was an amazing part of what we consider the OSR now, because her dungeons, the Dark Tower, Caverns of Thracia, Book of Treasure Maps, all that. That's the kind of stuff that people look at now and say, okay, yeah, that's old school. That's what old school is, but it's also what ended up becoming what we see in dungeons now. Now you read dungeons now. What do we have? Hex crawls. We have sandboxes. We have non-linear dungeons. We have dungeons with more than one faction in them. You have to, you have to think. I guess thinking man's dungeon is the way you look at it. It's
Yeah,
not just go in there and kill room A, then kill room B, then kill room C, and just go room to room. There's things you have to do in the dungeon. That's all because of what she put in her. She was way ahead of her time. TSR did not start. I think the first thing that TSR did that approached anything she did was probably Ravenloft, which came out in 1985, I believe, 1983 or so. Because that was the big, it
not
had the
sure.
giant map. It had the giant map, and there was different ways you could solve. You drew cards at the beginning, and that's where you found out where Strahd was and where the treasures were, is drawing the cards. That was the first thing they did that was really non-traditional. Up till then, everything TSR did was pretty much. It's not a railroad, it's per se, but it was very much go to this room, that room, that room, that room, that room, boom, treasure. Um, I think Ravenloft was the first thing written like a Jennell Jaquays dungeon, which, by the way, she was writing them like that way back in 1975, 76. So she was very, very, very far ahead of her time, and it took a while for the industry to actually catch up to her.
It's a huge loss.
I have to wet my whistle there. I got some whiskey
Well,
running through my veins tonight because
uh-oh.
yeah,
Everybody watch out.
yeah, I'm a little. It was bad news. It wasn't entirely unexpected, but it was not the best way to wake up this morning in here. And so, yeah, I'm just very upset about losing a friend. That's what it boils down to. Um, it's already been a rough year. We've already had a few losses in the community. Um, I messed up and burned my hand on the grill the
Ew.
grill the other day. Yeah, yeah. So I've already had got a nice little bill from the ER running for that. Um, yeah, it hasn't been the best year so far. So I expect Watsy to fuck something up any day now too to make to add to our enjoyment and happiness. So
Well,
maybe
yeah,
maybe
well, go ahead.
maybe Watsy will lay low this year. Who knows? For a while.
Oh, come on.
I'm curious. I really don't know this. Has Watsy said anything about this or thanked her for her service for TSR all the
I
years?
have
Or
no clue or no idea, but hey, you know what? I am actually going to give props where props. I'm sure if there is anything said by Watsy, N World would know about it. So
mm-hmm.
let's.
Well, Inworld's been
Uh,
Inworld's been pretty much Johnny on the spot lately with some of the stuff they've
yeah,
done. So they're doing a good job. They're doing a not terrible job lately of actually finding stories and publishing stuff before everybody else does. So
yeah, no.
um,
Doesn't say it in the main post, but yes, I knew they'd have something up, and
well, good for
yes,
them.
I mean,
That's good. I'm glad.
and she is like they say, a founding creator of the hobby. That's when you look back at the people that were instrumental in us being where we are now. Janelle is a huge part of that.
And she it's just amazing how young she was. Like I said, 19 to start Dungeoneer magazine, and already by the age of 25 had already published some of the best known. One of the bullet points, by the way, of Dark Tower is for the Dungeons and Dragons, the TSR's 30th anniversary. They published a list of the I think it was the 20 greatest adventures of all time, D&D adventures of all time.
Okay,
They were all TSR except for Dark Tower. That was the only non-TSR adventure on the list.
really, well, that says a lot.
So yeah, they basically were buffing their own products. They're like, yeah, all our products are the best of all time. Oh wait, but there's Dark Tower that was on there too. So
Oh,
that's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's
we
pretty
may have
amazing.
to add one to the list. All right.
We had to put Dark Tower there. I would have personally probably added Caverns of Thracia also, maybe a few others in there. But I think that's pretty cool right there. Just the fact that they would admit that in whatever 1994 95
Uh
they go,
huh.
yeah, this is you're right. Dark Tower is one of the greatest things of all time. So
That's pretty impressive. Oh my God.
so yeah, it's been a very emotional day, and like I said, it's really tough to see everybody having to talk to Rebecca and say, look, really sorry about this, because you don't really know what to say in this kind of a situation. What do you say? Unless,
There's
unless you've
nothing.
lost a spouse, you don't really have the words for anything like this. So it's really tough. Um, Gary and I talked to Gary today quite a bit. We're definitely going to honor Jennell at this year's con. We don't know what form that'll take yet, but there will definitely be a memorial to Jennell. I mean, like I said, she was already in our Hall of Honor.
Right.
Already, we have a plaque that has everybody the names on it in steel. It's actually a suit of armor. It's a shield actually, and it's got the plaques on there that we rotate out. yeah, everybody from the first year was in there. Everybody left from last year was in there. So we've already honored her in that way, but we'll probably think of something more permanent um, next year for for this for going forward. I think it's really cool all the people that are popping up in the chat there. Bill Barrs posted something really cool. I mean, everybody that was in there, everybody that they're old schoolers like us, Eric. They all know what her influence was in the
Yeah.
industry. So that you're going to see a lot of posts from people who were, I guess you'd call old schoolers, and they're going to be saying like, "Yep, you know, Jennell did this, Jennell did that, and that was one of the main things that we thought was amazing."
Well, as
Um,
Grumpy Wizard says, Dungeoneer was produced at a time when there was no desktop publishing, no print on demand, no internet to sell or distribute it. Quite remarkable.
by the way, to publish that, funny story. Janelle had to sneak into. So she had the keys to the print room because she was in the communications department, and she would sneak in at night and print out issues using the using the really kick-ass IBM Selectric printer they had there instead of just doing it on. I don't know what you even used back then to
Nah.
print up fanzines. Well, look how bad some of the fanzines were back
Mimeograph.
then. Yeah,
You're gonna
probably
have it in purple ink. Go
it would have been
smell it. You're
mimeograph.
gonna love it.
So she would sneak in there at night and publish up and then have those printed out. So they actually looked pretty good. She did the covers. I don't know if did I sent. I don't think I sent you the covers of those. I had a graphic of all the covers of them. But she did the covers and then did the most of the writing towards the last two issues because at that point everybody else had all the coolness had worn off. They're like, yeah, we're not going to do anything for Dungeoneer anymore, and so she was doing everything there. And that's why she
Wow.
ended up selling it too. By the way, they've all been reprinted. There is something called the Dungeoneer Compendium that Judges Guild published. They has the contents of the first 6 issues, and Goodman Games published a one of their really big book series. They're cool giant books they published. They
Oh,
published one that was all the early Judges Guild journals, but they also published one that was all of Jaquays' work for Judges Guild, including the contents of Dungeoneer magazine. You could probably still find that on websites. I think it was about $100, 150, somewhere in that range.
so
So
Bill Barr, Chanel is one of the first luminaries. Why did I say luminaries? First luminaries to step up and provide us with an adventure when we put that compilation book together to help Doug. It was the largest adventure in the book.
yeah, she was. She. I can't tell you how much she enjoyed the con and she loved the con, and that's one of the cool things about her. That's why she's one of the reasons. Also, she's in the Hall of Honor. She just. She just. I don't know. I don't know what her connect. I guess her connection with Nortex was just that we asked her to come, and we were one of the few conventions. I mean, she really wasn't a guest at most cons back at after she had got out of the industry for about 8 or 9 years. Most cons kind of, and that's the thing in the early aughts, and we talk about that a lot. Is that most of these people? This is one of the reasons why the OSR formed and why things came out like Osric and uh, you know Matt Finch's stuff because nobody cared about the people anymore. I famously tell stories about looking for other conventions that had old school tracks, and there were none. The conventions did not. The only convention I found old school track in was TotalCon. We had Frank Benser there running a few games. Other than that, and then Gen Con would have some people running stuff. But there was no conventions that were just like, yeah, we're gonna. These guys were forgotten. These guys were all forgotten. They were all thrown on the ash heap. Nobody was inviting people like Tim Cass, Frank Menster, Alan Hammock. None of these guys end up now are guests of all these cons. They're guests at
Right.
Gary Con and Gamehole and these smaller cons and North. Nobody asked these guys, and so I think Janelle was just very happy that we remembered her and asked her, and and she would come to the con. This is back when, like I said, nobody was talking about old school gaming, and they would ask her questions about old school and say, hey, what was it like to work on this? What was there to do? And I just think that always had a real big influence effect on her, and I think she really appreciated the con because of that. And then after she transitioned, we were very open to her and had no issues with her coming at all. And I think that really, it was a different time even 10 years ago. People were a little weird about that stuff, and we're like, yeah, we don't care, and we didn't. We never cared. Doug didn't care. I didn't care, And so I think she always appreciated that also. The first time I saw her after she transitioned, I tried to shake her hand. She said, "Nope, we hug now."
Oh,
And she
nice.
gave me a big giant hug. And the funniest thing was seeing the look on Doug's face when she grabbed him and just got him in a big bear hug. It was so funny. Because we're like, okay, I guess we hug now. We're gonna start
There we
hugging.
go.
And after that, I always hugged her when I saw her. So that was that was a big deal to her. She was just a very sweet person, very nice, very loving. Um, and like I said, I'm reading the stories now of people online. I'm just amazed all the people she helped and that people's lives she touched. That especially people that just out of the blue would just send her an email or a IM and just say, hey, can you tell us about publishing Dungeoneer? Can you tell us about Dark Tones that? And she would always give an answer, not just a little dash off whatever. She would give a long answer. And one of the examples is for the Night of the Walking Wet. Asked her if she could write a little introduction, and I thought introductions, how they are, Eric. I'm thinking like a page, maybe two
If that,
pages,
maybe.
yeah. So I'm
Just a
looking
little
one,
filler for you.
two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7.5 pages. And by the way, just very interesting, all about publishing Dungeoneer. I'm like way above and beyond anything I thought she'd write. So and it's all very interesting historical stuff that you'd love to know. So that's just how she was, and she looked very approachable at cons. One of the things I always thought was cool about her at North Texas was since she's so our deal as special guest, even with Doug, has always been if you're a special guest, you can run whatever game you want. If you want to run Monopoly, BattleTech, whatever you want to run, you can run. You're not structured to have to run this
Right.
or that. She would always run she would like run new RuneQuest. She would run stuff that nobody else would run, which is cool. I always appreciated that. One year she ran Duck Tower, which I thought was cool, and the players I believed all played ducks, which was funny. Um, and the last year she was there, 2023, she ran Hero Quest because she had bought the Hero Quest Kickstarter, had bought everything associated with it, the box set, all the extras, everything, and never got to play it. And she's like, Mike, can I run Hero Quest? I'm like, of course you can. You can run whatever, you're a special guest, you can run whatever you want, but I'm not going to tell you no. And she
Right.
ran Hero Quest, which is awesome. Hero Quest is a fun game. And she ran at the con and she just kept, she just basically had it set up at a table and you could sit down and then everybody would play a Hero Quest scenario. And then the next group would play another one. So I don't even know if we had a time set aside for her. She just was sitting at the table running Hero Quest
Interesting.
all day. It was great. Oh, but anyway, so I was gonna say if anybody wanted to ask any questions or talk or tell any stories about her online or just any questions about stuff she did, I will help answer those questions as much as I can, and Eric will pop in too, whatever. And or if you,
Gary says it was 4 sessions over 2 days.
oh, thanks, Gary. So Gary would know about that because he pays more attention to the con than I do. I don't pay any attention. I don't know what I'm doing. We'll
He's
try to
just a
answer
pretty
that.
face.
Or if you have any stories about her too, anything about her, just let I'm happy to. We're happy to talk about that too. But I just like to make this a really nice little. It was a bad day, and I want to make this day better. For everybody,
Yeah.
and talk about her legacy and what she's done. And I'll tell you what, I cannot tell you the influence that especially Caverns of Thracia had on my DMing. How because if you read Caverns of Thracia, it is a really cool adventure. There's basically 3 levels, but you can skip some sections. I mean, the way it goes, you could skip whole parts of the dungeon. And there's different power groups in there. There's all these things going on in there. And I always love that dynamic that there's all these things going on in the dungeon. Dark Tower is written very much the same way. There's different power groups, different groups in the dungeon. You can skip parts, you can go around things. But House of Thracia to me was always fascinating that you could just find these secret rooms and there was hidden mummies and there was just all this really cool stuff that it really was a lost city. And that's what I always thought of as a lost city. As a matter of fact, when I ran it, I would set it so the old D&D adventure by Dave Cook, the Forbidden City. You know, the one with the Earl Otis cover with I won the Forbidden City, and
Oh, okay.
it's this giant hidden city in the jungle, and there's this big crevice, and you go down. There's this whole city, but they only detail a few sections of it. I always put Caverns of Thracia in there because it fit in perfectly. It was a temple that was in the city that you could run into, and then you could go through the whole Caverns of Thracia adventure, which is awesome. And so that's where I put Caverns of Thracia in my campaign world, and it was fun. Groups that I ran through there always had a blast. They always loved it.
Nice. Hmm.
And Dark Tower, like I said, and also the Judges Guild book, the Deluxe Collector Edition Volume 2 that came out. That is an amazing book too if you have a chance, because Goodman Games, if I believe, actually owns the rights to these now. Judges Guild no longer owns the rights to these. I believe that Judges Goodman bought the rights to everything Jennell wrote, which is awesome.
Well, it's either Goodman owns it or Jennell owned it and licensed it to Goodman. I'm not quite
I
sure how
can't.
that worked.
Yeah, I can't remember how that worked, but so they were able to publish it. They did a really good job with that. Their collector's editions are very nice. They're great. They're what you call the perfect coffee table book because they're gigantic, and they're very well done and very well researched. I mean, everything about them is really good. Somebody said they play. Nunzio said I plugged in play by ColecoVision with 12 and 7-year-old daughters today. Yeah, you guys, those old systems, man. That's I don't know. That's crazy stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, she worked on a lot. She worked on one called, I think it was War Games. I believe she worked on one of the sports ones. Not sure. There's probably a list out there somewhere. I do not have it, but she did quite a bit of work over the years on ColecoVision. I know with ID Games, she worked with Quake along with Sandy Peterson. I believe Sandy Peterson was the one that hired her for ID Games, and then obviously Sandy Peterson, creator of Call of Cthulhu, did Quake. And if you've ever played Quake, yes, it's very Cthulhu Lovecraftian. And then Jennell worked on that also. So
So I broke it. My ColecoVision was a Coleco Atom, so I had the uh, ColecoVision with the computer built into it, with a digital audio tape and a daisy wheel printer. That
oh,
oh my
okay.
god, that thing was fucking loud. And I didn't do any. I did a character generation program for AD&D 1E on it.
Oh wow, was that one of the ones they published in Dragon Magazine? Or just
No, no,
okay.
I did it myself, but it just rolled ability scores, and that was big. You
Hey,
couldn't
even
even
back
print
then that
out a
was
character
useful.
sheet on it. It was worthless. I'm sorry.
Even back then you didn't want to have to roll up 100 characters, so you just pushed a button on your computer and had it roll up all those characters. Now some of them were terrible; they'd all be like all threes or something. But for the most part, you could use those. That was useful.
Well, I rolled out a character on live. Well, not live, but I recorded it as I was doing it and put it up on the internet for Greg's Friday night game of Shadow Dark, and I did really well. I have four scores that have like bonuses. I was like, holy,
Yes, yes. So
you know,
that's going to be fun. That's going to be Friday night. Greg actually asked me if I wanted to participate. I thought I might have something going on that night, and I think I'm afraid I do. Darn it! I would have loved to participate there. That sounds awesome, and I would like to. I would love to do that just because I want to screw with you guys. That'd be great.
oh,
Definitely want
oh,
to screw with you guys.
listen, somebody
Um,
always buys raw healing potions. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, just messing with you guys would be great. So Ed Laser says I would love to hear what was unique about our designs. Mostly, so I think that if you so let's go back into the history of D&D. The first D&D adventure I published was Palace of the Vampire Queen, not by TSR by the way, by We Warriors, and it was basically this mainly empty tower that had some vampires in it, but mostly it was a lot of empty rooms. It's not the most exciting thing you've ever run across. There's a lot of reprints of that out there, but the problem was most of the adventures when TSR started publishing adventures, they published the first ones were like the Tomb of Horrors, um, the G series, the Giant series, Village of Hamlet, pretty much anything monochrome was one of the first things they published. If you read these, they're very when you get to the dungeon parts, they're very linear in terms of you have to do this to go here, and then from here you go to here, from here you go to here.
But they were all tournament adventures, pretty much. They were
Right.
all written for tournaments at Gen Con or Origins or something similar. And then it's like, oh, this is burning a hole in our pocket. Let's make some money off this. And
Yeah,
they
that was the
didn't.
case with Ghost
Yeah,
Tower, Lost Caverns of Tomo-chan, Socanth. I mean that they were
the whole
all
Slaver
yeah,
series.
pretty much the S
Yeah,
series, all that. The G series was all tournament,
Tomb of
So yeah,
Horrors. Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, it wasn't that they weren't railroads. You didn't
no,
have to go choo 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 along here, but they were very linear in that. Tomb of Horrors. I mean, you got to go through the whole dungeon to get to the end. It's pretty linear. I mean, the Giant series. You can, like, for instance, when you go to the Steeding of the Hill Giant Chief, it's a big building. You can go in wherever you want, but in the end, you're going to end up fighting the big bad, and killing them and hopefully moving on to the next adventure. That's how those were set up. Is that you go in, there's conflict, you run into stuff, and then you get to a big bad. What was cool about Jennell's dungeons is, number one, there wasn't necessarily a big bad always. You didn't have to always defeat the big bad, and there was no set way to go or get anywhere. You were just kind of adventuring. It was very hex crawl in the dungeon, or very sandbox in the dungeon, in that you could just go any direction. There weren't. Sometimes she had passages that would skip whole levels. You could skip a whole level, but it didn't interfere with your ability to finish the dungeon. And what Eric and I talked about earlier was a lot of TSR stuff. To get in room 15, you got to find a key in room 13 in the alligator stomach.
oh
And then
yeah,
once you find that key, you go to 15 and get in. And then once you're there, there's 3 gems you have to find that get you to the next level. And so you got to go through the dungeon, find the 3 gems, put them in there. Very. Think of, like, for instance, S2. Um, uh, I'm really losing it tonight because my brain's White Plume Mountain. Each there's 3 ways the dungeon branches off, and there's Wave, Whelm, and Black Racer, and you got to find each weapon. And there's a one way you go. There's no other ways you
right.
go. You don't skip things. You don't go underneath things. You don't go above things. And that's what she did really well, was to make people realize that dungeons don't have to be linear, and they don't have to follow a pattern. They could just be there and be like be like any building, be like an office building. If you're in an office building, you don't have to go to floor 1, then go to floor 2, and then explore floor 2, then go to floor 3, explore floor. I can just go to floor 15, and I'll explore that. Then I'll go to floor 80. And that's kind of how her dungeons were, and that's why she was very unique what she did, because nobody did that. They all, especially the third party publishers, they were very wedded to the style that, like Eric said, it was very much a tournament style. Tournament style adventures. They want you to go every room, and you have to defeat a problem or a treasure or a trap or a monster, and then you move on to the next room. And then sometimes when you're there, you find stuff that helps you later on in the dungeon. That's very much how most of TSR's early adventures were set. Not only just their early adventures, sometimes even their later adventures were that way. Jennell's design was not that way. Let's put it that way. It was very much look, you can do this, or you can do that, or you can do that, or or you can do this over here. It doesn't, you don't really, whatever you want to do, that's how you do it. And so, very unique for the time. I would advise anybody, even to this day, if you're an aspiring dungeon writer and you're looking for inspiration, the 2 things you should have on your desk are Dark Tower and Caverns of Thracia. They're that good, and they're that useful, and they're that interesting still, because they will show you a different way to write the dungeon than it's funny, Eric, because all the OSR, a lot of people think the OSR means, like, well, I have to write the dungeons the way they were written in the old days too. And I see a lot of
Mhm.
that. I see a lot of people, like, just kind of trying to copy the basic way things were done back in the old days. No, you don't have to do that. You can
No.
break the mold, man. Break the mold and go do something different.
So Gary says Jennell worked on Donkey Kong, War
Wow.
Games,
War
Quake
games, I knew
1,
that one.
2, and 3,
Quake,
Age of
yep.
Empires 3.
Did not know that. Did not know Donkey Kong either. That's great. Yes, but yeah, she was a part of the game industry with both Coleco and ID, and I believe there was another company that I cannot remember the name of that she was with Sandy with before he did ID Games. But yeah, she definitely made her imprint in the video game world. Um, I mean, look, anybody that was, well, I shouldn't put it that way. I was gonna say anybody that was smart in the day got away from TSR, but I mean a lot of people say there that I think are smart people that I still love, like Zeb Cook and Steve Winter and those guys. But most of the people that wanted to make money got out of the
Yeah.
pen and paper industry and they got into the video game industry because that's where the bucks were in the 80s and the 90s was the video game industry. Especially once personal computers got big and they weren't this big clunky, Apple IIe or whatever. That's where everybody went to make big money was the computer industry. And so, a lot of the people now that you see that were old TSR people that are actually still doing okay and have insurance and have money, they were the ones that got out in the early 80s and said, "Look, I need to do something with my life that actually pays money and is actually going to, you know, give me insurance and all that kind of stuff." So,
Yeah. Chthonic Musings. There was some drama a few years back that Watsy's 5e book, Xanthar's Guide, has a "This is Your Life" section, which was obviously a lift of Jennell's central casting. Did Watsy ever apologize?
I believe there was a settlement. I'm speaking out of my ass right here, Garrett, but I'm going to say that I believe there was a settlement, and I think I can say that because Jennell's passed now, and so what are they going to do? Yes, I think something came of that, and they basically. I don't think they apologized publicly because we're talking Watsy here. They're not going to do that. But I believe money may have changed hands. I don't know. Something may have changed hands. Um,
Hmm.
not certain, and there's maybe people that know more than me about that. But I heard the rumors and heard from people that that they effed up on that one, which is shocking. I know you're going to be shocked, Eric, to hear that Watsy
I
screwed
I
something up.
I I'm looking. It's got like a 4.8 rating of 303 votes over on Scribd. The only problem is, if I go to Scribd, I'll be downloading a copy.
Oh yeah, well, you
Can't
do
do. I
that.
can't. I can't do that.
Dear
Not that
me,
I'd want
dear
to
me.
buy a copy. I'd have to look for one on the secondary market. So I'm
Yeah,
not going to put money into Watsy's hands.
no, I don't think I'm spending money on any Watsy products anymore. I'm sorry, just can't bring myself to hand them another cent. Um, I said recently I did buy the GameStop stuff, which I guess that probably put money in Watsy's pocket, but I figured to get that now because it's going to all go out of print. Nobody's going to be able to find the Demon Idol dice roller or the light up
You
dice
probably
anymore. So,
got it at less than wholesale, so I don't think you really
oh
put
my
money in.
god, I got it for pennies because they were just dumping that stuff. It wasn't quite the Ollie's dump. Which, by the way, my wife and I visited a couple Ollie's in DFW, and they're out of all the D&D stuff except for the D&D movie character figures. I can get
Well,
you a
because
full
those were
set of
only
figures, Eric.
those
You
were
want
only
one for
marked down
Christmas?
by half, I think.
No, they're
They
marked down a
weren't
lot,
10 cents on the dollar like the other stuff
Eric.
was.
Eric, they were marked down. They just nobody wanted them
Oh, really?
because they had half off plus an additional 37% off after
Oh,
Christmas sale, and you can still find Forge and I don't know if all the characters' names were. You can still find a complete set of all the characters from the D&D movies. So I just don't think anybody bought them, Eric.
the
Um,
best character. I, I like the paladin because that to me was how a paladin should be.
I thought they did a good
So,
job with that. By the way, Evil Cheese says they reduced. I heard they were. I did talk to the people there, and you're right. They were going to restock the sets. I probably need to go check there. I would like just a personal set just for me of the terrain and the counters. But so yeah, I'll probably have to check them tomorrow or maybe this week because I did hear they're restocking. I believe it was Thursday in my neck of the woods. Evil Cheese. Thanks for reminding me.
you see, if I bought that, I'm getting to the point now where I need to figure out ways to clear out collection to add collection. And if I
I hear
talk
you.
about that
Mm-hmm.
publicly, somebody else might decide to file legal action
I
against me,
know.
thinking that I
Oh.
have no money and then I'm
Oh
broke. And that's the
no.
reason why I'm getting rid of games.
Bill Barr
I
says North Texas tournament this year.
yes, I did.
Return to Dark Tower. That is awesome, Bill. Benefits Chanel's legacy via the convention. That is going to be kick ass, brother. Return to Dark Tower.
There you
And
go.
we need a return to Dark Tower, man. That place has still got all kinds of evil shit in there. By the way, so that was another thing about Janelle's dungeons. You didn't have to clean them out because all the TSR dungeons at the time, you had to basically clear them all out because you're going along room by room by room. Janelle's dungeons, you could leave and half the dungeon's still there that nobody's been through. So that was one thing that was very unique about her dungeons too, is that they were not. You didn't have to clear them out.
And wasn't that something like the way the rules were written for basic and D&D is that it was about collecting treasure. Monster experience points was minimal. Yet the way the adventures were designed, you had to kill the monsters to get the treasure as opposed
Right.
to so
Sure.
yeah, she understood what the rules said better than the actual publisher of
Well,
the rules.
I saw somebody argue an old school Facebook site just the other day about, hey, my. So if you read this, let me know. But somebody posted say, hey, my characters went to a dungeon, they got the treasure, but they managed to either talk out with the monsters or the bad guys, or they avoided them. What kind of treasure what kind of experience should they get? Myself, if it's me, Eric, I'm going to give them experience for defeating the creatures because they not only bypassed the creatures, they did it in a way that didn't expose themselves to danger. You would
Right.
not believe all the old schoolers who were on that page. Nope, they get no experience for that. Zero, nada, nothing. They didn't fight. They didn't fight and kill all the monsters. They get no experience in my world for that. Nothing. And I just think that's shit. That's ridiculous because
Well, that's the murder
they
hobo
overcame
skill.
the obstacle. Yes, and they were even called that's the murder hobo experience method because you avoid isn't avoiding getting yourself killed worth something. I mean that's just because the DM didn't have fun rolling the dice for all the monsters to hit you. I mean, is that why they got So I don't understand that. I don't. Maybe that's written in the rules specifically somewhere that if But I thought that Gary always said, look, you get experience for defeating monsters. However that is. Maybe I'm wrong, but I always thought that was the
Well,
way it
I,
was
I,
run.
I, the way I used to do it, if you totally avoided, um, probably got nothing. But if you parlayed, if you negotiated, if you did that, you overcame an obstacle.
Absolutely.
You
I
didn't just
believe
avoid
in
it;
it
you
too.
overcame it, and that was worth full
You
experience points.
avoided combat, and I think look, avoiding combat like I'm gonna take a game like Top Secret. I always love it when D&D people would play Top Secret. Okay, we run to the door, we kick the door in. The guy behind the door has an Uzi. He opens up, you're all dead. Here's the rolls. Oh, what? Yeah, because he has a freaking Uzi and he shot you and you died. Oh, oh, that sucks. It's not like D&D. No, it's not. And so people got that idea that hey, the way to complete your adventure is to kick in the door and kill everything on the other side. And then other games started coming out where no, that's not really what you're supposed to be doing. But that was kind of a D&Dism, right? That's how the whole murder
Yep.
hobo thing started. Was that hey, go in there, kill everything, take all their stuff. When people started saying like Call of Cthulhu, how's that going to work in Call of Cthulhu? Okay, me and my buddies, we go in there, we kick in the door. There's 25 cultists. We start shooting. You're dead because then they summon a Dark Young of Shub Nagurath. This guy over here throws a spear at you. You get 5 spears thrown at you. No, you don't get in a gunfight in Call of Cthulhu unless you want to die.
Oh,
You figure
by the
out what.
way, since you bring that up, Mike,
Oh,
you know it's
yeah,
on Humble Bundle.
I saw the bundle. It looks nice. There's some good
I
stuff
I,
in
mean,
there, man.
I was like, listen, and I judge these Humble Bundles not just on the total content, but what do you get for your initial buy-in? Sometimes, like for $5, you get the starter set.
Well, for
Um,
25 bucks, you
you
get
get
some
you get no
awesome.
25 bucks
Oh
is
my,
is awesome. I have
yeah.
the core books already for 70. I have the starter set, but I'm buying this whole thing because there's enough solo adventuring and one-on-one adventures that I can take Rach through and let her experience Call of
Their solo
Cthulhu.
adventures are really good. I bought at Gamehole one year. I bought all the solo adventures and then I took them on vacation to South Padre. and I specifically did the one against the tide, which is set
Uh,
near the beach, so I could get some mood stuff. But no, they were great. I played it. The first time I played it, I died horribly. The second time, I was alive, but I didn't do the best I could have done. I was going to do it a third time, but I was like, no, I'm going to do another one of these. So I did a few. They're fun, man. The solo adventures are great, and so
so
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I
the
definitely
Call of
thumbs up
Cthulhu
on that.
stuff is it's quality. You got to say one thing about Chaosium over the years. They've put out quality, whether it's Call of Cthulhu or RuneQuest or any of the other
Right,
lines.
absolutely.
It's damn good stuff. So I just wanted to. By the way, it's an affiliate link.
Oh, that's what. Okay, I know why you're talking up now. You got to
If you
get your
if
17.
you
Get your.
spend money there, if you spend money there,
You're gonna get me
you
some
can
new
be.
headphones.
Oh, Mike,
Mike gets new headphones.
Mike, they were ordered during the show. They're
Oh,
going
okay.
they're going to your
You got
post
tired of
office
me dealing
box.
with this.
So
All right, you got.
if
All
you
right.
want to support Mike, and
Thanks
you go,
for all your help.
fuck
Th-
Tenkar, I don't
Thanks
care
for your.
about Tenkar.
Yeah.
You can
I
support
knew
Mike
if
that way.
well, see, I knew if I fucked this up enough, you'd get me some new headphones finally. So I appreciate that. No, I didn't fuck them up on purpose. You know me.
No, I know that.
I think these things just got old and beat up. I got a piece of tape holding this ear
Mike, we've
thing
been
on
doing
now.
this for how long now? How many years? Three and
I
a half?
think you bought this for me 3 years ago when we first started doing
Yeah.
this. So yeah, that's
You
probably
know, I
probably
mean,
time for some new headphones.
you
Probably time
know,
for new headphones.
I could see that.
I appreciate
Um,
it. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the people with clicking the link and
yep.
creating money for me to do that. Because God
Dandelion
knows I'm
Games.
not benefit.
Yeah, pulling
Pulling
together
together.
an MCC solo adventure right now. Super big pain in the ass. So many strings to follow. Yep.
Well, maybe you need to talk to Pace Center Games because Pace Center's put out a whole bunch of solo adventures lately. Ben Barsh put out one. So maybe maybe you're just doing it the wrong way, Lou. You need to talk to Ben and Bill.
Uh-uh.
Hate to say it, brother. No, I always thought there's a skill to that. Jim Ward was really good at that. I'll say all the things. I know there's a bunch of bad things to say about Jim Ward about his dungeon design, but he was really good at solo adventures because he knew how to do it. He had a system set up, and he would always his solo adventures always worked out pretty good. So, um, yeah, there's a certain skill to doing that. I don't think I could do it. I think
No.
it's hard, especially
I'm
those endless. The really good endless quest ones that would not the endless quest. I'm sorry. What were the ones they made in England? The Fighting
Fighting
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
Fighting. Those were amazing because they would go in all sorts of directions. Usually, the
Yeah.
endless quest only had like two or three different, really paths you could go in. Maybe like 4 or 5 endings. Boy, those Fighting Fantasy had so many endings and so many things that could happen to you in so many ways from here to there. I mean, I remember the one, the House of Hell or Hell House or whatever. I must have gone through that one like 70 times and never had the same thing twice. Because
Really?
I'd always die in certain parts. Like, well, I'm going to try something completely different this time. Because sometimes you had to map them because you walk down a corridor, there's 3 doors to your right, one to your left, and one at the end, and you're like, I better start mapping this because, I'm going to get lost. Because, yeah, you get lost. But those Fighting Fantasy ones were, the Livingstone and Jackson did those. They were absolutely amazing. They were absolutely amazing solo ones.
Marcelo, Fabled Lands, the best solo RPG gamebook series ever
Not
written.
familiar with it. I will have to look that up, sir.
I
Thank you
don't.
for the
Yeah.
yeah Fabled Lands. No clue what that is. Fabled Lands solo. I'm going to mark it here so I have a bookmark. And there it is. So yeah, solo role playing. All right, I will look those up.
Oh, I was this Kickstarter number? No. All right. You know.
By the way, just a little. So we are this year going to have a some kind of memorial to Jennell. Today, I handed Gary the final special guest list for North Texas, so that should be being released pretty soon. I wonder if I give you any previews or if Gary's gonna slap me down on there. He probably went to bed. He's not awake anymore. He's not posting or listening to this anymore. I could
Do
probably
you
just throw some names out and
do you really?
he's not gonna pop out. He's not gonna say anything. No, he's gone. He's gone to bed, guys.
Oh, it's past his bedtime. It's 8:20 in fucking Texas.
Oh, there he is. I knew I'd get him out there. I knew I could fuck him. I knew I'd get him out. Um, Well, I'm just going to tell you. So the big name and the person we're really happy to get, we have Mike Morrells is going to be there, um, and he will run games, and he is very excited about coming to North Texas for the first time, and we're excited about having Mike Morrells here. You know, we're going to try. So this it's called Let's Get Mike Morrells Another Job. So any of you small companies, Lou, Bill, any of you guys, you need to pitch. You got to pitch Mike Morrells to come to your company and say, look, here's why we need you at Dandelion Games. See if you can haul in Mike. So no, yeah, he was very excited about coming. I met him at Gamehole Con. Super nice guy. Got screwed by Watsy, obviously, and his next chapter is going to be something amazing, I'm sure. So maybe we get the con, you get a few soda pops in him, he might give you some ideas about where he's going to end up at. Which actually, to be honest with you, he's probably going to end up someplace before a con, Eric. I have a feeling.
I would make a
Yeah,
guess about that.
yeah. He's not going to
But
be unemployed for very
we're gonna
long.
have to grab him at the con for one of the lives,
Oh God,
even if it's
yes.
just a whiskey tasting.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like I said, fun guy, nice guy. I think he's going to be a blast, and I think he's going to really fit in with the North Texas, way of doing. He was the one thing, and we've talked about this before, Eric. He was the one thing still there that was keeping old school alive. That
Yeah,
actually he actually liked and knew old school, because now the list of jokers they have there now, no clue, not a clue. They did not play old D&D. They don't know what old school D&D is. The OSR to them is doesn't they don't even know what that means, huh? OS what? Is that like a traffic stop or something? They don't know. So he was probably one of the last people there keeping the OSR, feeling still alive. So it's gonna be great to have him there as a special guest, and the rest will follow shortly. As Gary said, we'll publish them, and we've actually got a few. You might not see a few names on the list. We have a few people we're still waiting on a hard yes for. Some might not get back to us to about April or so we're not sure. I'll say a couple of things I can say. So, Steve Marsh is not going to be able to attend this year because he and his wife are doing the Rocky Mountains this year.
oh damn.
A couple of years ago, they did the Appalachian Trail, hiked it. The last couple of years, they've done the Pacific Trail, and they are taking on the Rocky Mountains now. And he was able to attend that last year because they had bad weather and they had to call it off. So unless they have bad weather, unfortunately, we won't see Steve Marsh this year, which sucks because Steve Marsh is awesome. I saw that he was at. By the way, we might as well talk about Paige a little bit. I talked to Ron Meischker. I'm hoping you pronounce your name right, Ron. I've known him for years. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he did the very first Page Philly. So I don't know what it stands for.
Oh, the
I'm
Philly Game
sorry.
Expo.
Yeah, Game Expo, and by all accounts, it was
Sorry,
an
Philly Area
incredible.
Game Expo. There we go.
That's it. By all accounts, it was an incredible success. They had over 1,000 people for the first year con. Had some great special guests there. Um, Ran tons of games. Eric. They had a 4-hour auction.
Damn.
I thought the auction at Gamehole was long because that one is over 2 hours. This was a 4-hour auction. They had stuff like a brown box. They had the complete set of RPGA modules, a complete set of R series modules. I mean, they had some amazing, amazing stuff. I talked to my buddy Ingo Schurman, who comes to North Texas. He said he dropped over $14,000 in the auction.
Jeez.
That's the kind of stuff they had. They had some good stuff, and the games. Bill went, so Bill could probably tell us about that. Bill Barsh was there with
Oh,
Ben.
Professor DM, Joe Block. I
Yep.
listen. I would
Greg
have.
Gillespie was there.
Yeah,
I mean, Frank
I would have
Mincer.
gone, but as we didn't as we were as the fall became uh you know cancer central with Rach, and it was like,
Yep.
what's the schedule going to be? And she wanted to go because she's really enjoying her conventions, and then she's like, well, we could go for like Saturday. I'm like, I'm not driving to Philly for one day. And
Yeah, that's. Well, Ron was beating me up. He said, "Look, you have got to come next year." And I said, he goes, look, Ingo drove from Texas, and Bill Dufton drove from Texas. You just need to get on board with one of them and go with them." I'm like, well, maybe, because I don't fly really, especially after it happened with that Boeing jet. That just adds more
who
fuel.
needs a door? We've got other doors. We don't need this door.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
let's- let-
Every time I think I might fly a little more, I read a story like that. I'm like, yeah, that's a no no.
but Mike, did you hear about the iPhone that survived the fall?
I did. There was two iPhones that survived the fall, by the way.
Well, one of them
Um,
still had half the plug that would
one of them
rip.
worked. One of them actually worked,
Yes.
which is crazy. Yeah, that's nuts. I read why that happens, which I thought was interesting. It has to do with the physics and stuff. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think that was that was funny. But I thought it was not very funny that they checked the other 737s. Like, oh yeah, these are all loose too. Like, okay, so yeah, I'm probably gonna avoid flying even more than I did
I don't
before.
fly again until North Texas, so by
Yeah, you'll
then
be
everything
fine. You'll
should
be
be
fine.
fine.
Don't get on the 737. You're gonna be okay. You'll be fine.
I don't even know what the hell flies from New York. But
But apparently Page was a huge success. I'm glad for Ron. I've known him quite a few years. He's just a nice guy, collector, gamer. Really, he went. Look, he worked really hard to make this a really good. And a lot of people, I will say, a lot of people thought that he bit off more than he could chew. I was in there too. I thought, this is a lot to expect to do your first year, but apparently it came off with very few hitches, from what I've heard. I have not
nice.
seen really any negative stuff, so that's good. It's always great to add another con to the list that has an old school track, and they
Oh yeah,
definitely do because they had Steve Marsh as a special guest. They had
Greg Gillespie.
Greg Gillespie. They had Frank Menser, doesn't really do a lot of cons anymore. They had Bill and Ben Barsh. That they had some really they had Mark Ballant for those who know. I'm sorry, Matt Ballant, who know who Matt Ballant is. They had some really great old school guests there, and they had a bunch of old school games. So, Jeff D was there. I'm sorry, I left Jeff out. Jeff D.
Oh sure.
So good for them, and good for that only helps. Look, the rising tide, all the boats are rising with the tide, so that's
Yep.
good. And the less we rely on WotC for anything, and the less we care about what they do with D&D, because it has rapidly reached the point, Eric, where we just have to not care about what they do anymore. And we're just they can do whatever they want. We have the game we like. We have the rules we like. We can run games for the next 100 years without needing anything WotC puts out. And we have
Essentially, yeah.
we
Uh,
have. I mean, I've got Shadow Dark right here. I can run my Shadow Dark stuff. I've got kick. I mean, if I want to get bored someday of D&D, I'm just going to start running my Shadow Dark version of whatever. I've got Swords of Wizardry. I still have ADD 1 and 2. I've got, OSE. I've got all this stuff. I don't need WotC anymore.
Joe George wants to know if there's any news about James Shields, and I'm assuming the family.
I know that the kicks. They're very grateful for the
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe. Yeah, and I don't even know what to say in that situation either. That's
Yeah.
just I can't even really talk about it. It just blows me away so much, and I just feel bad for James. And I just hope we see James this summer at the con. North Texas, because he's absolutely on the special guest list, and we want him to come. And he did the logo this year. Just the nicest freaking guy you'll ever run into. So hopefully he will be feeling better by then and feel like he can come to the con and be around people, because I think that would be tough too, Eric, to be
Yeah.
have something like that happen, to be around other people. I'm always very uncomfortable when people have to come up to me and feel like hey, I'm sorry about this or that or whatever. So I don't know how he'll feel about that, but
Gary said he's texted it with him twice. He's
good.
in a very sad place.
Yes, I can imagine. I
He,
can't.
family.
Actually, I can't. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Well,
Um,
here we got another one that's going to give you a kick in the.
okay.
Dandelion Games. Not sure if he'd be pissed at me saying anything, but everybody's buddy, Levi Combs, had some serious surgery on a brain aneurysm, and it's recovering, but is frustrated by the slow up in his lifestyle.
So he sent me a picture. He looks like I. He has a scar like across here with all these stitches. Looks like Frankenstein's monster. I'm like, dude, did they take your brain out and put another one in? What happened? Oh, brain aneurysm. They had to operate. He's the most positive guy ever, Eric.
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
like, what? He's like, yeah, yeah. I had a brain aneurysm. They had to go in there. I was like, okay, wow, But yes, Levi is a absolute asset to this industry. Also, great, just a super nice guy. Do we ever say that somebody in the OSR is not a super nice guy? I don't
Yeah,
think
we
we
do.
hardly ever do that.
There
Well,
are some.
Bill Barsh, yeah. I mean,
No, he's just a
yeah.
nice guy.
He's just nice. Ben has great hair. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, Levi is a great dude, and I didn't even know he was having surgery in his brain or whatever. But apparently, he came out and doing okay. He looks crazy, but we hope to have him at North Texas this year as a special guest. So we hope to get Levi there. So I'm going to leak every name. Gary's going to kill me. I'm going to leak every name
No
here.
more leaking. No more leaking. I'm gonna get.
I'm
I.
going to leak every name, Gary.
Who's gonna get in trouble?
Every
I'm gonna get in.
name.
I'm gonna get in. As your spouse,
He's not
I
going to
will get
blame
in
you
trouble.
for. He is not going to
I
blame you
did
for
not
me
keep
being in
you
it.
under control. Gotta learn how to
He.
keep my
All right.
spouse under control.
All right.
Keep
All
you
right.
underfoot.
All
I
right.
want to
All
weak
right. All
work
right.
spouse.
No
Damn it.
more. No more sneaky releases there. And like I said, everybody
That's what
sees
they call
special
it now.
guest list. Just letting you know that might not be the final list. It's going to be a gigantic amount of names because one thing that North Texas is always known for is we probably have 10% of our special guest people who are special guests. The list I gave Gary, I believe, was 40 names, which is about par for our course of 500 people. We're going to have 40 special guests, but there's always a couple people that drop out, right? And a couple people can't make it. So we always like to have more, but we know that's one thing that keeps our con special is we're a small con, but we have a huge number of special guests, especially from the old school. And this year's not going to be any different. We hope to bring back some
44
people that
names.
have not made it a couple years. So hopefully we've got some names of people that have not made it the last few years. We've got some new names for people who've never been to the con, like Mike Merle. So and then we have a good mix of people. So it's gonna be great. It's a great list, and I want to say personal thanks to Gary today because Gary called me. He knew I was in a bad place because of Jennell passing, and he got me talking and he got me and we went over the special guest list, and by the end of the conversation I'm back in the game, man. I'm ready. I was in a funk, Eric, a huge
I
funk.
believe it.
I burned my hand horribly Sunday. I gigantic ER bill. Just I didn't even tell you this part. The construction we had in the house last year, all the flooding.
Oh yeah, you told me
so,
something
so
about the
yeah,
bathroom, right?
yeah, so we walk out in the garage about 2 weeks ago, and there's a strip coming from the attic. We're like, oh shit. So we go look at the attic, it's bone dry, but it looks like the carpet around the upstairs bathroom has been like there's a stain or something. And so our guy that does plumbing came over, tore out a panel. He said, "You got a leak." He said it's leaking. What happened was when we originally did the contracting about 4.5 years ago, it was substandard. The guys did not put on glue on the spots they're supposed to put glue on. So it was a very slow leak. It was so slow, Eric, it took 4 years to finally come out. The guy said all the flooring was rotted right around there. So it took 4 years to rot out
Oh
and finally
Jesus.
start dripping. And thank God we caught it finally now. So had to go to the bathroom, had to pull the wall out where the shower was to put the glue on. None of the stuff they did had glue on it. Had the glue on the seams. Nothing. And it was all you could see. It was wet. You could see the condensation there. It was. I mean, the
Right.
leaks were so slow, and so had to pull the vanity out of the wall. Had to tear up all the tile. So yeah, that's another fun. We have our first project for 2024, Eric.
There you go. So to
Is
save
up to
$10, they are costing you thousands.
pretty much, or maybe he just forgot to do it. I mean, who knows what was going on in that guy's head?
Maybe he was
I did.
sniffing the glue instead. I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. Or he's in a hurry. Who knows? But so that's happened. So I was just in a bad mood. Gary called. I appreciate you calling, Gary, and just talking to me. And I also appreciate. I heard from a lot of you today that know that I was very close to Jennell, and I talked to her quite a bit. And we're just not just a influence on me, but a personal friend. And I appreciate my wife. My wife knew I was in a funk today. She said, "How about if I buy lunch today?" And so we got takeout at the local taco place, which is awesome. Tacos are always good. I mean, you can't unless you're
Comfort food.
Tom Tullis doesn't like tacos, but Tom Tullis is a weirdo. So who
Well,
knows why but everybody else loves tacos. You know. So I love my wife for doing that. I love Gary. He for doing that. I heard John Law called before the show, wanted to know how I was doing. Um, yeah, Skeeter Green got in touch with me today. Just everybody that got in touch with me, I really appreciate you. Touching base because a lot of you know how important Jennell was to my life, and to the con, especially to the con. Greg Gillespie got in touch with me. Brian Tidwell. I'm looking at the names here. Jen Glazer, obviously. Um, Lloyd Metcalf, Dennis Astaire. So that thanks for all you guys. Because it was pretty tough this morning. I mean, waking up, I woke up really early, and that's the first thing I saw when I got in line. That just really fucked my day up. In a bed, I'm like, oh great, this is terrible. And I immediately felt for Becky because, like I said, I just can't imagine that pain of losing your spouse like that, and especially
no.
the way she did. Just the awful last couple months she's had. So please keep her in your thoughts, and if you can donate to the GoFundMe, it really helps her out. She's really a nice person, and I really like her too. And by the way, she's welcome. We told her she is absolutely welcome to come to the con, and whether she comes or not, she and Jennell will be on the guest list this year. Jennell is going to be an honorary guest this year because we would always have had
Right.
Jennell back, so she will be on the guest list even though she obviously can't attend. And we hope to do something for her. We're gonna do something for her. It probably will be something permanent for the con. Maybe we'll name a room for her. We have a room named for Doug, you know, the Doug Ray Memorial, room, and
Hmm?
maybe we'll have a Jennell room also. We'll see. Um, and by the way, I can't, I, I don't think I'm going to get political here, but it can't be overestimated the fact that that Jennell was part of the LGBTQ community and was a very positive example of that community, and was able to go to cons, and I just think that's a very positive view of the LGBT community. I think she presented a very positive. I just said positive like 5 times. I might be drinking a little. I might hit the
You might,
bottom of the.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay,
we're
Mike. We may be hitting our witching hour for tonight. That's okay.
Well,
But
we still have
no,
no, we still got some time. No, I want to give people their money's worth
uh,
tonight. We got 20 minutes. Come on, we can
we
we can we can
we
kill 20 minutes.
we may kill some brain cells if we keep this going the way you're going.
Tammy says very sorry, but just talking about it tonight must be helpful. It is, and I'm really I feel really good about all the really cool things I'm seeing online. People posting about her. She was a huge figure in the community, and you always worry, because when some of these old school guys passes, this is not something that's going to make the newspapers. It's not going to make the nightly news. These people aren't important enough in the world, I guess, to really, because we're a niche hop. Let's face it, we're a niche of a niche, right? The niche,
Right.
first of all, is role playing games, and we're a niche of that because we're old school role playing games. And so a lot of these guys are just not going to be honored or remembered when the time comes. And by the way, Eric and I always talk about something, and I want to really emphasize this, and we could talk about this too. If you have a chance, get out to a convention now. Do
Yeah.
not put this off because I hear from so many people that oh, I was waiting to go to your con to meet Jennell, or I really wanted to go to meet this guy or that guy. I mean, you know, Jim Ward. You only get to see Jim Ward now if you go to Gary Con. He doesn't go to any other convention. Doesn't travel anymore. Tim Kask will only go to conventions now he can drive to. I mean, these guys, they are getting older and they are going to be passing away. I mean, as sad as it sounds, it's true. Get out to conventions now. Talk to these people, hear their stories, interact with them because it is not guaranteed, Eric, that
No.
any of us are going to be here, next year or the year. I mean, I remember, Steve Perrin, lovely guy, love. He was Steve Perrin guest at North Texas. He worked on RuneQuest, just a great old guy, and I loved hearing his stories. Because he was kind of part of the industry that I wasn't really familiar with. I'm familiar with a lot of the TSR stuff, but I'm not really big on the West Coast, RuneQuest group. And he had some great stories about the RuneQuest stuff and the West Coast guys. And he was going to come to our convention a couple years ago, but his wife was sick, couldn't make it. Like, no problem, Steve. You're always a special guest, whatever, to come. And what happened was he got sick and he died later that year. And it's just crap. That's one
Yeah.
less person that we have around that can tell the stories, that can tell the history. And then I was sitting there going, I would have loved to ask Steve more questions than I ever got to ask him. I got to sit down with him a couple times, but it was always in passing. It was never a really good sit down. And I try to have those sit downs. Obviously, I'm a big Alan Hammett guy. I love Alan, really good friend. I try to have these long sit downs with Alan now whenever I see him because I want to know everything. And he has some great stories. He shares stuff that don't make it into books that you never hear. I mean, the story. It was a couple of cons ago. We're sitting there, John Peterson, and he shared the story of his stock. Of Brian Bloom having to pay his stock things. It was a great story because I'd never read that or heard that anywhere, but it had to do with the fact that they're laying off people and they had a stock options thing with TSR back in the early 80s that you could buy stock with your paycheck. And so at the time, if you remember, Eric, the stock was way high for TSR because
Yeah.
it was booming in 81, 82, 83.
But you
Now it
bought in
dropped.
cheap.
Yeah, yeah. Bought now it dropped in 84, 85. And, kind of went, maybe stabilized. But for a while, it was trading at huge numbers, and so Allen was just sticking all his his money into the stock and sticking money into the stock. Well, then they have one of their Black Fridays where 300 people get fired, and Brian Bloom, who I don't know for some reason never liked Allen, called him in there and said, "Yeah, you're fired." And Allen said, "That's okay, that's cool. By the way, I'd like all the money in my stock options now," because it turned out that Brian didn't remember that there was a codicil in there that if you're fired without well, notice you get all your stock options that moment. They have to cut you a check for it. And Allen owned quite a bit of stock, and he said the look on Bloom's face was amazing when he realized the check he was going to have to cut for Allen. So Allen left TSR with a gigantic golden parachute. But I just never hear that story. Where do you hear that story
No.
except from Allen? So get these guys down, talk to them, hear the stories. I'm sure. I bet Don at this time is probably tearing his ears out hearing all the stories from Tim Cass. He's probably like, "Oh my God, this old man needs to shut up. He can't stop talking." But man, I tell you what, Tim's got some great stories. He does. Especially about the early days of the hobby. And after these guys like Tim and Jennell and everybody are gone, we're gonna have to tell the stories, Eric. It's gonna be on us. You know, and people that write the books, like like John Peterson and Ben Riggs and all those guys. It's gonna be up to all of us to Ewald, all the guys that have written books last year. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to tell the stories. Because I don't know, these D&D documentaries seem to take for freaking ever to come out when they've ever come out. So that's
Don't
always a
hold your
tough one.
breath. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they slowly trickle out, but it's up to us, and it's up and I can't tell you the amount of people I've heard of that are like, man, I wanted to go to fill in the blank con this year and I didn't go, and then I didn't get to see this guy.
Yeah.
You know, don't let that happen because these guys are not getting any younger.
I mean, like I said, we didn't do the Philadelphia con because Rachel was going through treatment, but we're doing Total Con. We are
Nice.
strongly considering going to, was it Rising Phoenix Con?
Oh yeah, that's in
In,
Boston, right?
yep,
Boston or
it's
yeah,
in Massachusetts again. And that's in
Massachusetts.
April. And of course, North Texas is a guarantee. And then ShireCon. So we're going to be looking. If we had
That's
Philadelphia in
awesome.
next year, it'll be a five con year.
What do we have to do? We're retiring and getting older, Gary. I mean, Eric, there's nothing else to do. Let's go to cons. This sounds fun. My
Yeah,
wife and I
yeah.
had talked. We're going to try to hit Shirkon this year. We're going to take a long 3 day drive. Yeah, we don't care. What
Enjoy
is it?
it,
We're not doing
man.
anything. We're thinking about going to Shirkon. We're definitely going to go to, obviously, Gamehole Cons. My kind of my on my list to always go to.
Yeah.
I don't know about ReaperCon. They'll probably miss ReaperCon this year, but we'll definitely go to some of the smaller cons there. We'll go to Long Con was incredible this year. I had an absolute blast at Long Con. Half the people there were from North Texas. It was just great. But I'm looking for. I would love to hit Chaosium Con, Eric, one of these days.
I've heard about it. It's
Michigan.
been very good.
Very positive, feedback from that. Definitely, like I said, I want to hit ShireCon because I love Tom and love all that group. East Coast group up there. They all go to
Hmm.
ShireCon. And then Ron's been beating me down about having to go to PhillyCon, which I think I'm going to have to make it there. It looks like an amazing new con. You know. Tammy said, "Oh, Tammy, I would drive Tim Cass myself. The ride will be worth it. I hope you enjoy the F word. That's all I'm going to say. If you enjoy the F word, then driving with Tim would be awesome. Because from what I hear from Jim Wampler, who drives with him to GaryCon every year, that is used more than probably and, if, the, and I, and all put together. So
He uses it like a New York City cop.
yes,
It's a verb, it's an
yes,
adverb, it's a noun, it's a subject. It fills in
hmm
any use you might need. And there's a classic
absolutely.
video on YouTube about
But no, he is a great
yeah.
guy to talk to, and he is full of TSR history. And
Yeah, I'll
and
pass on the weed, Gary.
and,
Thank you very
and
much.
we. I don't think we're ruining any confidences by saying that either. I
No,
think.
no, I don't think. I don't think. God bless him.
But you know what
I
though?
remember. I remember having to reach out to Tim, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you got to." I'm calling him on like Skype, and it's like, "Yeah, yeah, Eric, just give me a minute. I got to finish something on my hot farmer game or whatever it was called." I was like,
And you heard a in the background.
"Alrighty, Tim."
Okay, somebody's getting fortified here. Look, as soon as I get old enough to, and I feel like it's time, I'm going to be chewing on the edibles, Eric. No, no question
Oh,
about it.
edibles
Because
are. That reminds me. Holy crap! I still have edibles that were given to me back in the fall. I thankfully I put them in an airtight
Well,
container. Um, by a certain Connecticut Yankee lawyer.
well,
So
I'm waiting for my wife to retire because as long as she works for the company she works for, she can be tested, so she can't
right.
do that. But look, we got enough aches and pains. I got my leg up here on a thing right now with ice pack on it because I got that damn pinched nerve in my back and that's going to my leg. So I'm ready for some chemical enhancement in my life.
There you
You
go.
know, but I want my wife to be able to participate also. So I got to wait for her
You
to
don't want to do it
retire.
by yourself.
No, no, no.
You need
She needs
somebody to be
friends. You know.
enabler.
So here,
Uh,
EYP's. Oh boy,
oh, they changed the laws.
I
So
heard this.
NYP can transfer to upstate agencies. I mean,
Really?
you could always go to an upstate agency just get your time carried on the end. It wouldn't carry up front.
Oh, that
If they're
sucks.
carrying the time up front, that tells you that the NYPD is just going to be a training ground. Go
Well,
to the
can you see?
academy at the NYPD and go for better pay in a year or two after.
That's going to be a tough one, Eric, because he's right. Can you say NYPD mass exodus? Yep,
Yeah,
that's a tough
yeah,
one.
and for a lot of other reasons too, besides the fact they have a hiring freeze.
Oh, yeah, I've been reading the stories. It's not. There's not a bunch of. You know what? You got out good time, Eric. You really did. It's tough. It's going to be tough to be a New York cop going forward.
Yeah,
There's just so, especially all the migrant crisis we have now. I just saw that Boston, just Massachusetts, just the governor came out and was flipping out about their issue. But I'm just gonna say, not once again, not being political. You can't let 250,000 people a month in the country and not have issues. In the major cities in the United States. Because if I'm looking for a job and I came across the border, I'm going to go to Chicago, New York, Boston, big city, right? LA. I'm not going to go to Podunky, whatever. I want to go get a job, and so that's why they're having these big crises now, because all these people are going to the big city. But that's all I'm going to say on it. No politics. Just saying that it's getting tough, man. It's getting tough in those big cities. A lot more people are going, they're moving to those cities. So it's a
I
tough
don't
one.
know.
We'll see. But no politics. No politics.
No
Just
politics.
that's not political. That's just I'm just saying that you got out. I'm glad you got out when you did, man.
Yeah.
Plus,
No, my
it's
comment
good.
was right.
You're too. You know what? I always tell this to Zach Glazer and he laughs. I said I'm too busy to have a job because he always goes, "You need to get a job." I'm like, no, I'm too busy for a job. He's always trying to get me a job with Frog Eye Games. I said I'm too busy, and I am. I'm too busy to get a job. Eric, you are too busy to have a job. You are way too busy to have a job.
Oh, you tell me about it. I believe me. I know. I'm a social media influencer. Very little influence, but
Well, you're head. Apparently, you're head of the OSR too, which is odd because I don't remember an election,
I don't
and
remember the election either.
I never appointed you that. I never appointed you head of the OSR personally,
I
but
you know what I think it is, Mike? I think that they looked for a volunteer and everybody else took a step backwards and they went, yeah,
and you're like, whoa, hold on, and they're
whoa,
like, oh
whoa,
yeah,
whoa,
you.
whoa. Responsibilities with no authority and no pay? No, thank you. But
Let me throw out a couple more things while I'm here. So, I talked to Gary, and this is probably not going to be a secret, but we are looking at doing some really cool stuff this summer having to do with Jennell. So you posted the logos of some of the shirts that we had. Gary, beat me up and stop me if I can't talk about this, but I think I can. Um, we've already vetted this through Rebecca, and she thought it was a great idea. So we are thinking about reissuing some of the older shirts because this is back in the day when maybe we had 100 people come to the con and maybe 25 would buy a shirt. I don't even have some of the shirts, Eric, because I wore them out and the logo fell off, and not like this one, but the logo fell off and I can't wear them. So we're thinking about doing a reprint memorial version. I'd rather you hold on to the details, and that's all I can say. But just imagine that you may be a way for you to purchase a shirt, and it may benefit people because of it. That's all I'm going to say. But
Gareth,
so
like
that's one
the
thing we're thinking
plan's
about
not
doing.
100% finalized.
See, I have to have Gary police me.
Gary, I tried. All right, listen. I've been told I can't. Well, he's in
Yeah,
Texas. I can't
yeah.
use
So
any
he said
kind
no.
of.
It's a shirt. So shirt reprint is enough for now. We are going to do a shirt. I can say that the shirt reprint is there. I can't say how anything past that though. So, but that's something that we're going to probably do, and that's going to be cool too. Because honestly, I want a copy of some of the early shirts because I'm not a 3X anymore, Eric. I'm a 4X. I need a big shirt now. So
Mike,
yes.
I'm going to tell you this as a friend. You might need to work out a little bit.
Hey, I'm still on the Ozempic. I'm still losing weight, but the problem is it's not. It has to do with my body shape now because of the insulin injections. My stomach kind of protrudes like a beer belly, so I can't wear
Oh,
the third.
okay.
So I put on the 3X shirt. It fits perfect. Sticks on my belly. So up until my belly, it's fine. When it hits my belly, it's not working. So I'm gonna have
That's
to work on
all
that.
right. All right. I got you. I understand.
I
I
gotta have
understand.
the. By the way, yeah. So we should. I am. I am a four. Gary, go to hell, Gary. I am a 4X. Gary ordered me a 3X shirt last year. I'm very disappointed in him because I can't wear last year's shirt. It
Well, you
sticks
know
on
what
my
you can do?
belly.
You can just cut the sides, right, and give it a little flair. So,
Wait a second. How
yeah.
about Satan in a belly shirt next in a belly showing the belly next year? The belly shirt.
Oh, rub the belly, rub the belly.
I said I was sorry. I know he didn't. He's been pretty good about getting me 4Xs the last few years, but last year I didn't have a 4X. But yes, so yeah, that's gonna be cool. We'll have further info on that as the time comes. I also want to announce I'm going to be talking this week about the Three Castles Award. We need everybody to get their if they did anything in the RPG industry last year. If you did an adventure, a module, a source book, a rules set. We would love for you to apply for the Three Castles Award. I need to talk to Kelsey. She was going to send in some Shadow Dark stuff. I've already got entries from quite a few people, but this is just your formal announcement that we are, try to get those before the end of January, and we will, um, like I said, anything you did, if you did it in the year 2024 or 2023, and you think it's something that was really good, please talk to me, and I will have the details on the site. But basically, it's going to involve sending in a PDF. There's a steering committee that looks at those. They basically just want to make sure it's not just absolute garbage.
Garbage,
And
I
then
tell
and
you,
then
garbage.
if it isn't, then you will get told to send 5 copies in, and the judges will judge them, and you'll get maybe get a kick-ass trophy at the end of it. So,
There you go.
boy, Gary's those are
You guys say,
four
no,
X
he's taking
cylinders. All
care of you.
right,
He's like, you're right. You get your
all
4X.
right,
Now
all right.
shut up.
Well, I want my 4X. Damn you.
I want my
Um,
MTV. All right.
well, thanks for everybody tonight. It was really very cathartic.
Cathartic, yes.
Yeah. I've had a few soda pops here. Um, it was great talking about Jennell and her legacy. I don't know if did we ever have her on the show, Eric? I don't think we did,
No, never did.
but you know what? You know what we might do this year, Eric? We may start having a lot of the old school guys on the show because what I said is true. We need to really talk to these people, and get the darlings and the people we don't normally have on the show on. We've had that old
Yep.
guy Alan Hammock on a few times, but I wouldn't mind having Alan on again. He's great.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
have these guys on as special guests and talk to them about the old days because once again, when they've passed, there's nobody there to tell the stories except for us. So, but I appreciate everybody showing up. Thanks, Tammy. Love you guys too. But yeah, it's just it's just tough losing a friend, and it's tough losing such a huge influence on the industry, which I consider too young. 67 is way too young, Eric. Now,
Yeah.
when I was 20, it was an old man. Now that I'm 60, it's just like it's not an old dog. It's not one bit old. No, it's not old at all.
No, it's the high end of middle age.
Yeah. So I it was way too soon, and I appreciate the outpouring of love from everybody. And Becky, once again, the GoFundMe for Becky's medical, the credible, ridiculous medical bills we have to do in the United States. If you could help out, that's awesome. Um, but anyway, that's Did you want to say anything else, Eric? Either, or
no,
I
think
know I rambled on most of the
not
night,
Mike. You
but
covered all that, folks. The next live stream is Friday night on this very channel, 8 p.m. We are doing a live play of Shadow Dark. This is again. I always swore we would never do a live play. Shadow Dark, 3 times. All right, it's that good a system.
rules are made to be broken, Eric. Especially if it's something as cool as Shadow Dark.
Yes.
Made to be broken.
So
It's gonna
join
be
us.
that's gonna be fun. I will try to tune in and watch. I'm busy, but I will try to because that's gonna be amazing.
Oh yeah,
I'm only I only wish I was there to give Rob Conley a hard time because that's what I would do.
Rob, Tim, Joe, Greg's running it.
Oh,
Myself.
it's gonna be awesome.
Um, I don't think we got Matt Jackson because Matt Jackson has this weird thing where he actually works. So
What does he
I
do
know.
wrong in his
What the
life?
hell? Why
He's
would he?
doing
What?
something wrong.
Yeah, he's got to
Oh,
figure that crap out.
he's young though. He's young. He probably still has to have a job. He's not like us older people. So
Yeah, not an old fart.
yeah.
All right, folks. On that note, thank you to everybody in the live. Really do
Yeah, thank you
appreciate it.
so much for showing up and talking and sharing memories. And if you're part of the North Texas RPG Con page, we have a thread open about Jennell if you want to share anything. A lot of people have posted some great pictures of Jennell running games. It's awesome. And some great memories of her. So, please just, keep the good thoughts going. We really need it. 2024 is going to be a rough year in a lot of ways. Not the least of which is watching WotC, whatever they're going to do with our favorite game. God knows what. So we need some positivity, man. We really do. And I
But
appreciate everybody showing up tonight and talking with us.
I'm pretty sure tomorrow's regular video will be about the deck of many things and about how the
Mm,
cards
mm.
are missized in the same deck. So it looks like a real mess up. Thank you to Evil Cheese for pointing that one out. I didn't know about it, but I did a quick search on it. Oh yeah,
Oh boy.
that would have been another This Week in Gaming Stupid, but we'll talk about that next week.
Is that why people got fired? Probably. I
Oh, this the corrected deck.
Oh no. Okay, I'm on. I'm ready. I can't wait to read this one, Eric.
Yes. So
Oh boy, this is the corrected deck.
this is
Oh dear God.
reviews are on Amazon. That's where you can find this stuff.
Oh well, guess where I'm going right after the show.
There you go. All right, folks.
That'll make me feel better. I will feel good
There you go.
watching Watsy screw
Watch
up.
being consistent in its inconsistent quality. Be safe. Be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Roll them well. Back again tomorrow, like I said, with probably about the Watsy deck of many screw ups
Yep.
and live stream 8 p.m. on Friday.
By the way,
See you
toast to
then.
Jennell. Jennell, thank you, Jennell, for everything you gave to the game industry. Really
God
appreciate it.
bless. Be good.